What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. I wanted to talk about some of my hopes and kind of, not resolutions. I think New Year's resolutions are kind of bunk, but things I'm hoping for, things I'm working towards for the new year. Both kind of things that I hope to see as a fan and things I hope to accomplish for my channel and personally, all that kind of stuff. First of all, let's catch up a little bit. It's been a while since I've talked to you guys, I feel like, in the podcast form. Just right off the bat, I will also say that one of the things that I am hoping to work on more this year is this podcast. I really like it. It's very fun. I really want to do a lot more interviews. I had such a great time interviewing Robert McCall, and had a good time talking with Danny as well. And there's a lot of cool people to check out and just be able to meet and kind of interact with a little more personally here in the disc golf community, and I'm looking forward to trying to do more of that this year for sure. I also for sure hope to be able to get this podcast onto streaming apps. If anybody has any experience with that on the best way to go about doing that for inexpensively, I asked Johnny V about this on Smashbox the other day, and he said that you can use SoundCloud, and that works. So I'm going to look into that. It's something I want to do. I have all the other episodes backlogged, and if I can get them posted up somewhere, I'd like to release all of them so you can download them onto your phones and stuff, and then all future episodes will be that way too. I may or may not continue hosting them on YouTube if I do that. I'm really not sure. I could go either way. It's a little bit of extra work to make the YouTube videos and export the file and upload them and all that stuff. I may end up, if I can get it onto streaming apps and you can listen to it on SoundCloud, I may just do that and then just kind of let you guys know about it. New episodes on social media. You can subscribe to it on your favorite app and listen to it. All of that would be really great. So that's something I'm looking to do. But yeah, other personal things. I had a good holiday. Really solid. Got hooked up. Very spoiled. Got treated real well by Santa Claus this year, I'll say. I ended up with a Dynamic Discs Easy Cart, which is super rad. I have a video about it. I'll be posting another. I'm going to do an updated in the bag video as well and show you guys the cart and how I have it configured, kind of going into the spring, hopefully. I'm already looking forward to the spring because this winter is driving me crazy. I haven't got to play nearly enough golf, so I'm looking to rectify that situation as soon as possible, but I can't wait to get out and throw some plastic. I have a bunch of stuff I want to test. I have some new stuff for myself. I got myself a Biofusion Criminal, so I'm excited about that. I gave away the one that DD sent me, but I bought myself one to put in the bag because I think I'm going to dig it. I'm going to try to beat it in and get it to the point where it's flying more like a Convict, kind of, overstable, but not total meat hook. Once it breaks in a little bit, I'm planning on getting a Lucid Criminal as well. So I think that's going to be like just super meat hook that I think would be real effective in my bag. But we'll get into that stuff when I do the in the bag video, I guess. I also bought myself a new first run Gobi in a green colored one, which looks really rad. It's like not like a super bright green, really. It's like a grass green, or like, it's just nice. It's a good looking disc. You'll see that one as well. I'm stoked on that. So yeah, good holiday. Got hooked up with all kinds of goodies from my wife and my family, and got myself a couple of presents as well, like the Gobi. It was funny, I actually bought the Gobi, and then when it got here, I didn't even open it up. I gave it to my wife, and I was like, here, wrap this up and give it to me on Christmas or my birthday. My birthday is a few days after Christmas, too, so that's part of why Santa's so generous to me sometimes. It helps out, I guess. But yeah, good holiday. Laid low mostly. We had a white Christmas here in Portland, which was only the 6th time that's ever happened in Portland's like recorded history. So that's pretty cool, and I liked it. Unfortunately, since we're in the valley, a lot of times the snow will mix with freezing rain, and it'll make for a dangerous situation out there. But what are you gonna do? It's just part of the deal. But I woke up on Christmas morning. There was snow on the ground, and it looked pretty, and that's all that really mattered, I guess. And it also melted in time for us to go see some friends for Christmas dinner and all that kind of good stuff. I was off from work for about a week, which was great. played some video games. I think I snuck a little golf in there to test out the Easy Cart. I got one test round in with it. It worked out great. It was very nice rolling my plastic rather than carrying it. I actually got a soldier bag to put on the cart. I figured out some cool ways to kind of rig it up and then attach it and stuff, and it's been a lot of fun already. I did a handle modification. I'm going to probably either show you guys all that stuff in my next in the bag, or maybe a separate video on the cart mods and that sort of thing. But I'll keep you posted. You guys know I'm not going to let an opportunity to make a video about something disc golf related go to waste. Hopefully you saw my video on the flight towel. Cool product. Very nice. Very cool people that are making them as well. So that's always great. And what else is new? Don't have a ton of plastic to test right now. I need to secure some more. I'm in some talks with some other folks, actually right before I hit play on this, to look into some other manufacturers that might be able to hook me up with some stuff. I definitely have some good Prodigy stuff to test. I still have some DD and Latitude stuff laying around as well, and a few other things. And I'm going to go pop into Disc Golf Depot and say hello tomorrow. So stay tuned. I'm going to keep the ball rolling with the reviews. It's going to slow down quite a bit due to the weather. We've been having these nasty windstorms, and then when it's not windy, it's raining. If it's raining and it's not like super windy, I can get out and test, but I feel like it just basically completely ruins my ability to objectively test the overall flight of a disc when there's like 20-mile-an-hour winds going on. I mean, I could get out and throw in theory, but I'm not going to be able to put together an accurate picture of how the disc flies overall, other than super windy conditions. And that's just, I'm not going to review a disc and only be able to tell you how it flies when it's windy out. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'd like to test in more as calm as possible conditions, honestly. If I have a slight head or tail end to work with for certain discs, it's a good data point to bring to the table. But beyond a certain point, it just makes it completely silly. So that's about it for personal updates. Let's talk about some of the things that are going on in the PDGA. New rules went into effect. You guys can read about those all over the place. I'm not going to really go into it too much right now. I am going to tell you guys about this post from Jamie Thomas today. I thought was interesting. I was thinking about reading that and talking about it a little bit. Let's talk about some of the things before we get into that. Let's talk about some of the things that I am hopeful for as a fan, as somebody who just loves the game, and things I would like to see happen this season. So, new PDGA commercial. This is something that desperately needs to happen. We need a new PDGA commercial for the broadcast. If I have to sit through another season of broadcast watching the For Me video, it's just going to drive me insane. There's plenty of money in the budget for the PDGA to go out and hire Joe Mez or somebody who's already working within the sport to give them a decent commercial that's not completely embarrassing and goofy. I'm so over it. It was an okay commercial at first. It's been around way too long now. It needs to be updated. It has nothing to do with professional disc golf at all. It's a mess. I can't wait for them to get rid of that. Hopefully I can't think of anybody who's like, oh, I like that commercial. Yeah, let's keep watching that. Nobody likes it. Let's update that. That's something I'm hoping for in 2018. Here's another thing I'm hoping for in 2018. I sent this into the Disc Golf Answer Man, and it's safe to say that Bobby is not a fan of this idea, but I would like to see the Trilogy switch to a unified set of names for their plastic. This is me personally. It's just my opinion, of course. I bear no influence on any of this stuff. Just an objective member of the disc golf community saying that I think it's confusing to have the same plastic blends to have 3 different names for each one of them. We know that Opto and Lucid and VIP are the same plastic, so why do they have to have 3 different names? And if you're trying to get new people into your brands, having different names for everything is just a mess. It gets really confusing. Even me. I mean, I've done so many disc reviews. I geek out on the aspects of plastic and the things that are out there on the market so much. And even me, occasionally I forget the difference between tournament plastic and VIP plastic with Westside. I just can't get, it's just too much information to try to wrap my head around. I mostly got it dialed in now, but occasionally I'm like, wait, what would that be? As Gold Line is tournament plastic, is fusion plastic. It's BT plastic, and then it's Zero, and it's classic. Just one set of names. Here's the set of names that I would like the best for what it's worth. I mean, it's not worth much, but I like Fusion. I think Fusion's a good name. I'm not a huge fan of Gold Line for whatever reason. I think Fusion's a good name. I like Opto quite a bit. So Fusion, Opto, Biofusion for the recycled plastic. I think that's a good name. Biofusion and Fusion is great. I also like Classic, but I would say Classic Soft, Classic Medium, and Classic Hard, because I think the term blend is also confusing for beginners and people who don't geek out on the nuances of plastic blends and stuff. Because, I just said it. The term blend can refer to a plastic type overall. So say the Classic Blend, you might just think that it's just classic. You know what I'm saying? So that gets a little bit tricky for me too. I like medium. And then probably retro, but prime is fine as well. I think Origio is a goofy name. I think BT is goofy. I'm not into that either. My opinion, nobody really cares. That's what I would like to see that. I think it would make it a little easier, especially now that Westside is basically split between Latitude and Dynamic. They're a little more tight-knit than ever at this point, as far as I'm concerned, and it seems that way. I think that makes sense to feel that way, but we'll see what happens. They're in charge of their own destiny. They're doing just fine. DD and Latitude are still absolutely killing it out there, and Westside's got a bunch of great molds that people really like, and I think they're going to continue to grow and grow and grow. The media content coming out of the whole DD family is just unbeatable right now. You just from the players themselves on social media to all the ridiculous amount of work that Bobby and Anthony put in and out there, they're just doing amazing things, and they'll figure it out and they'll do their thing. And I don't think it's that big of a deal, but we're talking about things we're hoping for to see in 2018. That's one of them for me. Here's the next one. This one's going to surprise you guys a lot. I want to see Ricky go 3 for 3 on Worlds. You guys know, I'm the huge Rick fan here on my channel. It's no surprise to anybody to know that that's one of my hopes, is to see Ricky take it down in Vermont and be 3 for 3. That'd be pretty epic. It's going to be tough. It's always tough, but theoretically it was tough the last 2 years, and he got it done pretty effectively. And this is a course that he's had a ton of success at as well. I almost feel like it was a good thing that he didn't win Green Mountain this year, because now it's not like a win streak that he has to keep alive as well for Worlds. He can come in as a fresh tournament on a ground and a course that he's extremely comfortable with, and just smash again. So we'll see if it happens. I hope it does. If Ricky doesn't win, I would for sure hope to see a new world champion like Big Germ, or that would be great. See Germ take down a world championship. So that would be fun. Or something like that, Michael Joe, I think, is going to be a real danger. Nate Doss, I mean, he could get another Worlds out there after just winning the Green Mountain if he plays the same way. We'll see what happens. But I would ultimately prefer, if it's not Ricky, to be somebody who hasn't won the Worlds before. I think it's more fun when you kind of spread the love around a little bit. Oh, you're just saying that because you don't want Paul to win. Maybe that's right. Another thing I'm hoping that happens in 2018, which I don't have to hope too hard for, I think it's going to happen, we'll see, is for me to surpass 5,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So that would be really cool. I'm at like 4,700 or so. I think it'll happen sometime this year. It's not a huge deal for me. I'm happy that anybody subscribed to my channel, let alone over 4,000, almost 5,000 people. It's pretty wild. Things continue to try to seem to trend upwards. My Instagram's doing quite well. I'm having a lot of fun posting the videos. The content's been a lot of fun to make. I feel like I'm getting a little better at it over time, and I think it'll happen. We'll see, but that's not to say that I don't really appreciate each and every one of you guys already. And and subs come and go. People will unsubscribe and probably resubscribe multiple times. Maybe you just unsubscribe, never come back, but it seems like I continue to slowly gather subs as the time goes by, and I think I will surpass 5,000 eventually. One of the things I was hoping for the off season here actually did come true, and Mez put together a really awesome highlight reel video from the first half or first part of the season. I'm not sure how many parts they're going to do of this video series, but it's just highlights, and it's epic. I absolutely love it. I need to watch it like 20 more times. It was just so great. Reliving all the amazing shots that these guys are throwing out there, and it's just so cool to watch. And I really love the idea of having highlight reels like that for us to be able to show to people who aren't into disc golf, because if you can see the amazing putts and some of these amazing shots captured so beautifully with such amazing production quality, I think it'll translate to people who may not understand much about disc golf, or maybe they've heard about it, or maybe they played it once but they don't really know how far it can go, because when you see it at the top level and you really get involved with it, it's just so awesome, and it's such a cool community, and I just love the game so much that it's really cool to have something like that I can show people who aren't necessarily into disc golf already, and kind of be like, dude, check this out. Any sports fan, I think, watching that can at least appreciate the shots that are being thrown out there, even if they're gonna be disrespectful about the fact that it's frisbee golf or any of the kind of typical stuff. Some of the stuff that we get from, from Sports Center and that sort of thing. But that's pretty cool that one of the things I was hoping was going to happen did happen. So that's great. I also am hoping still to be able to interview Jonathan from Mez to ask him some questions. I had reached out to him about being on the show. We tried to make it happen. We had a kind of a scheduling issue, and it fell through, and we kind of kicked the can down the road till after the holidays, but hopefully we can get that happening soon enough, because once the season starts up again, I don't think he's going to have a lot of time. They're going to be out there crushing it. I can't wait to see the stuff that they come out with this season. It's just going to be amazing. I don't even have to hope for great coverage and for bigger and better things from people like Mez and Central Coast, and from our big tournament directors, and from the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the National Tour. There's no hope. There's no hope needed. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I have total faith that's going to be another amazing season as a disc golf fan, and I can't wait for it to get started. I'm chomping at the bit to watch some golf, play some golf, and see the top players in the world get out there and start competing again. I'm so ready for it, for sure. I'm super stoked about that. So this is something that happened today on Facebook, and I wanted to touch on it here just for what it's worth. Maybe as nothing else, it's kind of a timestamp of what's happening today in the world of disc golf. Jamie Thomas, who from Spin TV, and I believe he works for Disc Golf Park and stuff. He does a lot of different things in the disc golf community. He put out a post on Facebook. Let me make sure I'm still recording. Yep. He put out a post on Facebook, and I might as well just read it for you. It says, "Dear Professional Disc Golf Association." He tagged them in that as well. It says, "I'm a staunch supporter. I'm proud to be a member. I'm thankful for the work being done to grow this game. Lately, I'll admit, I have a rapidly growing level of concern about the way policies are being enacted. It seems to me that in the past 6 months, a very off-the-cuff, fire-from-the-hip mentality is taken over as multiple policies have been implemented, which are as frustrating as they are unenforceable." Okay. He goes on to say, "The big three that I'm referencing are the tobacco policy, media policy, and the foot fault stance rule change. I do believe wholeheartedly that the intentions behind the changes are good, but to be frank, the arrow has missed the mark by a wide margin. I'm respectfully requesting an internal review of your decision-making procedures, as well as a transparent explanation of the vetting process for proposed changes to the policies. We need more clarity in the governance of how the sport should be played, and the aforementioned policies have only added confusion, ambiguity, and a feeling for your members that arbitrary legislating is taking place. I'm writing this as an open letter to encourage more transparency and two-way communication between the elected board and its members, and in no way is this intended to bash, demean, or belittle the board's efforts or the board member themselves. It bears repeating that I don't believe there is ill intent on the part of those who represent us. I just feel that these rule and policy changes need some sort of alpha and beta testing before being rolled out en masse, because the ideas don't feel fully thought out in terms of how to actually implement and enforce in a tournament setting. Before the 2018 season begins, please review and revise these off-season changes to make them less ambiguous, less arbitrary, and more representative of your members. Respectfully and sincerely, Jamie Thomas. Then he says, fellow disc golfers, like and share if you agree, but please refrain bashing the PDGA in the comments. We're a member-driven group. We're all in this together. It seems to be a rather conflicted post for me. To be perfectly honest, I don't nothing against Jamie. I've never met him personally. Seems like a nice guy. It does seem to be somewhat conflicted, though, to say things like, you missed the mark by a wide margin, and it seems in the past 6 months a very off the cuff, fire from the hip mentality is taken over as multiple policies have been implemented, which are as frustrating as they are unenforceable. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like he is bashing the PDGA, but he's attempting to seem as though he's not. It's a kind of a weird statement, and it caught me off guard, and I thought it was interesting. If nothing else, I don't know if I have a whole lot of thoughts about any of these things, to be perfectly honest. The foot fault rule, they've enlarged the stance area that you're allowed to legally place your foot. I don't know what's ambiguous and unenforceable about that compared to the current rule. How is it any worse to try to enforce a larger spot for your foot to be than a smaller one? I'm not really sure how that's unenforceable and unable to be actually implemented in a tournament setting. But either way, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, and I'm not really sure why he feels that these are shoot from the hip, just kind of off the cuff. I don't know what's making him think that per se. There's definitely is a vetting process, and people bring these ideas to the table. They vote on them, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm all about transparency. Transparency is one of those things that I'm always a fan of for the most part, especially amongst people who have power over things that affect other people, especially in this kind of situation where there are people who are trying to make a living and are being governed by the PDGA in their attempts to do so, and also for people who, like me, who are just a fan of the game. I don't know. The tobacco policy, I could see that being very difficult to actually enforce by saying you can't smoke or vape, or I think they even said like dip, like chewing tobacco and stuff, which is beyond disgusting in general. They don't want any of that stuff taking place anywhere where there's going to be a PDGA event. I mean, all that's well and good, but how do you prevent people from being in a state park smoking a cigarette or a vape or whatever? It's as simple as if you're in the gallery and you're doing it, and one of the people who are kind of helping corral the gallery and walking with and keeping everybody holding signs that say quiet and all that stuff, if they see you smoking a cigar or a cigarette or a vape or whatever, they're going to tell you can't do it. That's how you enforce that. I mean, that's pretty simple. They're going to come up and say, hey, you can't smoke. Please refrain from smoking during the event. You also, there's usually, before you head out to watch a big event with the gallery, at least at the Beer State Fling and at Worlds, before we head out, and they do the announcements of the lead card. Usually it's like, I think it's Michael Downs who does it for the national tour. He stands up on the table or whatever, and he makes announcements: turn off your phone, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And he's just going to also say that no smoking of any tobacco products or use of any tobacco products is allowed during the duration of this round. anywhere on the premises, please, that's at Milo MacGyver. I mean, you could be halfway across the park doing whatever you want at that point, but if you're there and anybody who's in charge of enforcing any of the stuff, keeping you off the tee pads, keeping you away from the players or any of that kind of stuff, they see you smoking, they're going to tell you not to smoke. That's how you enforce that. I don't see how it's unenforceable. I could see it being tricky to make sure that it doesn't happen, but yeah, it's interesting. The media policy that he's referencing basically says that you can't create a super group unless you get a PDGA exemption. So you can't say, oh, well, the lead card for the first round is going to be, Coling and Eagle and Ricky and Paul. If you want to try to drum up numbers based on that, it's a popular thing that we've done in the last, we've seen in the last few years, where they would assemble all of the most high-profile players at the event onto the lead, kind of a mock lead card for the first round of the event. A lot of people have mixed feelings about it. You could say that it's an unfair advantage because you get to play with the better players. You could say it's a disadvantage because you're playing and you have the cameras on you for the first round straight away, so you're dealing with that pressure right off the bat. You have more eyes on you and potentially more spectators. It's also, that would ensure that the super group or whatever usually would tee off last, which means you face different weather potentially than the other groups. And there's definitely some issues and some talking points with that, but that one's tricky, and I'm not exactly sure what it all says to go into it. I don't see any problem with having super groups personally, but I don't think it's a huge deal to say that you can't do that. You just gotta cover the card that has the that you want to cover. Pick a card that has at least 2 decent names on it, which is always generally going to happen, or then pick a card that has Ricky or Paul on it and 3 other guys, and have that for the first day, and then the next day you follow the lead card, and those are going to be the 4 best players who played the best the day before. I don't really see why it's so necessary to have a super card, and it is kind of a weird thing to say, oh, well, these guys are going to be like given a lead card essentially experience without earning it at all because it's the first day of the tournament. So it's there's a lot of talking points for this whole situation, obviously. And I just wanted to read through that post because I thought it was interesting, and I thought it was pretty bold to like throw that out there like that, just like a public open letter. And I'm not sure how many people have seen this. It's got 111 likes on it. It's got some loves as well. No one else reacted to it in any other way. 25 shares, and it's got some comments on it for sure as well. And I'm sure the debate will rage on all that kind of stuff. I don't think he's going to strong arm the PDGA into opening the doors and showing us how they arrive at every decision that they make. I don't think that's how governing bodies are ever going to work, unfortunately. So yeah, I think that's a little bit naive to think that they're just going to be like, okay, well, we're going to do a YouTube live stream of every single meeting that we have at every single time that we do anything and making any decision. I do think it's a little weird of Jamie to essentially insinuate that they're just arbitrarily making these rules with no actual reasoning or debate or any kind of a process to it. He's more or less insinuating that that's going on by saying off the cuff, fire from the hip mentality. You're more or less saying that they're not thinking it through and they're just doing stuff on a whim. And I think that's strange. I don't think that's true, personally. That doesn't make sense to me at all. That they would be doing that, and who's to benefit from that type of to act that way? I don't know. Very interesting. We'll see what happens with all that stuff. All the new rules did go into effect because it is now the new year. So the stance rule is different. There's a few other things in there. I don't know how many of them are really going to come into play for this next season, but I guess we'll see if any of them come to a head in any kind of a major tournament or a big event out there. We're going to see exactly how all that stuff kind of works out over this next season. But it has been also like several years since a new revised rule book was put out, which once again is to say like, oh, it's a fire from the hip, off the cuff thing that you're changing these rules, even though they haven't changed any rules in an official capacity for like a few years, since a new book was printed with a number of different revisions in it. So kind of interesting. I'm wondering if perhaps Jamie Thomas will pop up on Smashbox or Ulti World or something like that coming up here relatively soon, and explain a little bit more of what he was trying to say and what he's actually trying to get, what he hopes is going to come out of making this post. Just kind of elaborate on the thought process of what he's thinking and what he actually is hoping to accomplish by putting this out there. Interesting stuff. Some other stuff that's going on in disc golf before I let you guys know. There's been some changes in personnel out across the different teams. We saw Drew Gibson, Bradley Williams, and also Josh Anthon all get picked up by Innova. So that's interesting. Dynamic Discs has signed Peter McBride, AJ Risley, and Chris Clemens. Peter and AJ seem like great fit. I don't know much about Clemens, but I would imagine he is as well. But yeah, AJ is a really great fit for Dynamic, in my opinion. It seems like he's perfect for that. He's a goofball. He's a great player. Seems like an extremely nice dude. And I think he'll fit right in with those guys. I think it'll be great. Obviously, we already heard about Zoe and Dustin Keegan. I heard that a bunch of people got picked up by Prodigy. Let me go look this up, actually, because Prodigy picked up a good bunch of players for sure. Sarah Holcomb still with Legacy, although Peter McBride and AJ both switched from Legacy to Dynamic. Prodigy welcomes Cameron Colglazer, Matt Oram, Nicholas Masters, and Cam Messerschmidt for 2018. So, particularly Colglazer and Matty O are two great players. It makes sense with the whole kind of southern roots of Prodigy to pick up those two guys. I believe at least Colglazer was for sure on Prodigy at one point. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I think so, though. And, I thought they were both, if not all three of these Masters as well, were all Latitude 64 players for a while. I'm not exactly sure. So, yeah, that's interesting, though, to see. Those are some good pickups, for sure, for Prodigy. So that's cool. And always interesting to see where people end up during the off season. And we'll see if any other changes happen over the next few weeks. I think DD is still yet to announce one more player at least that they're bringing in. I'm not exactly sure who that's going to be, so yeah, it'll be interesting to find out. And ultimately, I don't really care where people end up. What they're throwing is less important to me than a lot of other factors, but it is interesting. I like to see kind of new in the bags when players switch companies and kind of what they end up settling on. And I would like to talk to a player who's switched companies a few times and actually figure out like what the process is for learning a new bag. Do you just try to get molds that match something that directly as close as possible to something you're already throwing, or all the things that you're already throwing? I need to replace this with this with this, or do you just test stuff that you're interested in? I wonder. I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to approach it, but I do wonder how a lot of players happen to go about that. So I'm going to let you go. That's all I have for this year. What I'd like you to do is leave me in the comments below on this video. Let me know what you're hoping to see this year. If you have any personal goals for disc golf, or for anything that you're working on disc golf related, or anything that you'd like to see as a fan of the sport. I'm hoping to just keep the ball rolling here. I would love to pass 5,000 subscribers if possible. I think it'll happen, but we'll see. And I would for sure like to be able to get this podcast onto some podcasting apps. And like to keep the ball rolling. Maybe pick up a couple more sponsors to hook me up with more plastic to show off to you guys and give away to you guys and all that good stuff. Those are some of the things I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to dial in my backhand form a little stronger. Not necessarily add distance, although I would like to throw farther. But I'd like to throw about as far as I'm capable of throwing. And I'd like to be able to do that more consistently and just be more accurate overall. Maybe have a little bit more of a dialed in for like routine with my backhand, because I feel like I switch it up a lot and I try a lot of things out there, and I feel like I just need to dial something in, stick with it, and just keep working at it and keep feeling smoother and smoother as we go. So we'll see what happens. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to for this season. Let me know what you are. Much love to everybody out there. Hope you had a great holiday season. And hopefully all the weather will thaw out soon enough and we can all get out there and throw some discs. So I'll check you later. Cheers.